Well, congratulations, everybody. We did it. We finally found the one job Donald Trump is absolutely committed to, refusing to leave. That's it. That's his whole platform now. Not jobs, not healthcare, not the border, not taxes, just I'm staying. And if you don't like it, I will scream on the internet at 2 a.m. until your family stops inviting you to Thanksgiving. That's where we are. Trump refuses to step down. Congress is exploding on him. And honestly, it's the closest thing America has had to a functioning fireworks show in years. Because this is not normal. This is not how a democracy is supposed to work. The whole point of a constitutional system is that we don't have to negotiate with a guy like he's a squatter in the White House. You're not supposed to have a president who treats the Constitution like it's the terms and conditions on an iPhone update. I agree. Wait, what is this? Removal? No, I don't agree to that. And look, I get it. Stepping down is hard, it's emotional, it's embarrassing. It's the kind of thing you do quietly, with dignity, with a statement written by an adult, and then you disappear for a while and let the country breathe. But Trump doesn't do quiet. Trump doesn't do dignity. Trump doesn't do adult. Trump does full-volume chaos, like a leaf blower that's also somehow racist. So now we're watching this insane moment where the machinery of government is doing what it's supposed to do, slowly, ceremonially, painfully, while Trump is doing what he always does, which is take a match, light it, and then hold it under the gas tank while shouting, "Look how strong I am!" Because when the Senate conducts an impeachment trial, it's not a vibe. It's not a, let's see how it goes. It's rigid and ceremonial for a reason. Senators rise when their names are called. They have to say their vote out loud. Guilty or not guilty. No hiding. No slipping out the back like you're leaving a bad date. And the reason for that is accountability. It's supposed to be public. It's supposed to be on the record. You can't pretend you weren't there. You can't claim your intern accidentally voted for you. You have to own it. And the Constitution doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room here. Conviction requires a 2/3 majority of those present. It's supposed to be difficult. The framers designed it to be hard because they didn't want impeachment to be a casual thing. They didn't want it to be like canceling a streaming subscription. We're sorry to see you go. Would you like to pause your presidency for 3 months? No, it's serious. It's heavy. It's the nuclear option. But they also didn't design it to be ignored. They didn't design it for a president who responds to the concept of consequences, like a cat responds to a bath. Claws out, screaming, destroying everything in sight. And while all of that is happening, while this constitutional process is moving forward like a slow-moving train, Trump decides the best thing to do is pick a fight at 2 in the morning on Truth Social. Of course, because Trump does not communicate like a normal human being. He communicates like a haunted printer, always at the worst time, always with too much ink, always making noises that feel vaguely threatening. And he posts this statement that basically says, I'm not stepping down, I'm not quitting, I'm not conceding, and if you Republicans don't fall in line, I will destroy you. That's the message. That's it. Not I respect the process. Not I will cooperate. Not I love this country. It's try me. It's a threat. It's a tantrum. It's a hostage note written by a guy who thinks he's the hostage taker and the hostage at the same time. And it detonates online. Millions and millions of views. Which is always the saddest part of this, because it's like, yes, America's falling apart, but at least it's going viral. Great. Wonderful. We're all just doom-scrolling history like it's a new season of Succession, except the characters are real and they're all dumber. And the timing wasn't accidental. It comes right after reports that Speaker Mike Johnson, yes, that Mike Johnson, the guy who always looks like he's about to apologize for something, privately urged Trump to resign. And I want you to imagine how bad things have to be for Mike Johnson to privately urge Trump to resign. Mike Johnson is not a take a stand kind of guy. Mike Johnson is the human version of a beige wall. He is cautious. He is careful. He is the kind of guy who reads the instructions on a bottle of water. For him to say, hey, maybe you should step aside, means the math is terrifying. Because this isn't just about morality or accountability. Republicans are not suddenly developing a conscience. This is about arithmetic. Republicans hold the House by a margin so thin it's basically imaginary. 2 seats. 2. That's not a majority. That's a coin toss. That's one guy gets food poisoning and the whole government collapses. And Johnson apparently warned Trump plainly, if you refuse to step down, Republicans lose the House, possibly within days. And Trump's response is not to reflect, not to negotiate, not to think about the party. Trump does what he always does when someone gives him bad news. He shoots the messenger and then claims the message is fake. He accuses Johnson of betrayal. He dares Congress to try removing him. And with that one decision, Washington goes into full-scale chaos. Impeachment is no longer hypothetical. A House floor vote is scheduled. The clock is ticking, and Trump's defiance guarantees this vote will not be restrained or procedural. It's going to be historic, ugly, explosive, and deeply divisive, which again is basically Trump's brand. He's like if chaos had a rewards program. And what makes this even more destabilizing is the whiplash. Because just a day earlier, Trump seemed like he might be cornered. For a brief moment, even his critics wondered if resignation was coming. Like, is he actually going to do the one thing that would lower the temperature and spare the country? And then, nope. That moment vanished. It was like watching a mirage disappear. And what followed was escalation. Louder, harsher, more reckless, like a guy who realizes he might lose an argument and decides the best move is to flip the table and start biting people. Now Trump's position is unmistakable. He is not resigning. He is not cooperating. He is not preserving the party. He is choosing battle. And that battle is not just against Democrats. Trump is turning his fire inward, targeting Republicans he calls rhinos, which is hilarious because the Republican Party under Trump is basically a zoo at this point. Everyone is calling everyone else an animal. You're a rhino. You're a snake. You're a rat. Meanwhile, the voters are like, can someone just pass a budget? And in Trump's world, disagreement is no longer political. It's personal. If you oppose him, you are an enemy. That's it. There's no nuance. There's no, we disagree, but we're on the same team. It's, you're either with me or you're dead to me, which is a very healthy way to run a country. It's also how cults work, and it's how toddlers work. If you don't give me the toy, you are not my friend anymore, and I will burn down the daycare. So how did it get here? Behind closed doors, Johnson laid out the numbers. Republicans hold 217 seats. Democrats hold 215. That margin is collapsing in real time. Multiple lawmakers have already resigned. And you've got Freedom Caucus members openly talking about walking away rather than defending Trump, which is incredible because the Freedom Caucus used to treat defending Trump like it was a sacrament. Like, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I briefly questioned Trump, and now I must go on Fox News and yell at a college student to cleanse my soul. But now even they are like, this might be bad. And if even a fraction of them follow through, Democrats regain control of the House instantly, and that changes everything. Committee chairs flip, the speaker flips, the whole investigative machine shifts gears, impeachment accelerates, articles move to the Senate with momentum and legitimacy. That's why Johnson urged Trump to resign voluntarily. It wasn't a moral plea, it was a fire drill. But Trump refuses, so now Republicans are trapped. The Judiciary Committee has already passed impeachment articles. 7 Republicans crossed party lines. 7. That number is not nothing. That's not a fluke. That's a breach. That's a crack in what used to be absolute loyalty. And it signals something deeper: fear. Because when Republicans start voting against Trump, it's not because they suddenly love democracy. It's because they smell danger, political survival. They're recognizing that defending Trump may now be more dangerous than opposing him. And that is the moment everything shifts, when fear changes sides. When fear stops being, I'm scared of Trump's base, and becomes, I'm scared of standing next to this guy when the building collapses. And the full House vote is days away. Democrats are moving quickly because they sense vulnerability, and public outrage is rising. Protests are spreading nationwide, not dozens, not thousands, hundreds of thousands. Sustained demonstrations, escalating confrontations, injured officers, vandalized federal buildings, governors activating the National Guard, authorities preparing for worst-case scenarios. And let me just say, it is very on brand for America that we are now living in a time where impeachment is happening, while the streets are on fire and everyone's like, yeah, but did you see the new iPhone? This country has the attention span of a goldfish with ADHD. We cannot handle this. We're not built for this. And this isn't just political pressure, it's converging with legal peril. There's a federal judge issuing a contempt deadline tied to withheld evidence. Body camera footage connected to a fatal incident. The administration delays, cites privilege, cites security, cites time. And the judge is losing patience. Produce the footage or face consequences. That's a real thing. And either outcome strengthens impeachment. Release it and risk exposure. Refuse and prove obstruction. Either way, it's bad. Meanwhile, Trump's approval rating slides into the mid-30s, worse than Nixon during Watergate. And you know what's wild? Nixon at least had the decency to look guilty. Trump doesn't even look guilty. Trump looks annoyed, like the country is inconveniencing him by holding him accountable. Like, can you believe these people? I'm trying to post and they keep asking me about laws. Republicans know these numbers. Their phones are ringing. Constituents are issuing ultimatums. Vote for impeachment or lose your seat. And that kind of pressure rewrites loyalties. Because politicians are not brave. Politicians are like weather vanes. They turn whichever way the wind blows. And right now, the wind is blowing in the direction of get away from Trump before he drags you into the ocean. So when the House votes, it's plausible that 20 to 30 Republicans vote yes. And if that happens, impeachment passes with a clear bipartisan majority. And that matters because it strips Trump of his favorite defense, which is, this is a witch hunt. This is partisan. If Republicans join in, it's not partisan. It's we can't pretend anymore. It's we have to save ourselves. And Trump's refusal to resign has cost him his final strategic advantage, control of the narrative. Had he stepped down, he could have claimed sacrifice, patriotism, stability. He could have shaped history's memory. He could have done the whole dramatic thing. I'm doing this for the country. He could have been like a mob boss going to prison with dignity. Instead, he chose scorched earth. He chose war. Now the Senate looms. Conviction requires 67 votes. Democrats don't have them alone, but Republican senators are watching closely, watching protests, watching evidence, watching polling, watching each other. And many are calculating survival beyond Trump. Because here's the thing, senators are like sharks. They smell blood. And once they smell blood, they don't care about loyalty. They care about staying alive. History shows party loyalty breaks under pressure, and this pressure is immense. Add to it the accumulation of scandals. This impeachment isn't isolated. It's layered on ICE controversies, obstruction allegations, foreign policy failures, economic instability, erratic behavior. It's like a Jenga tower where every piece is labeled scandal, and Trump is shaking the table while yelling, "This is fine." And hovering over everything is the unspoken alternative, the 25th Amendment. If Trump's behavior continues to deteriorate, if cabinet officials conclude he's unfit, removal could occur without a Senate verdict at all. And that's the thing that really freaks people out because impeachment is political. But the 25th is a different kind of crisis. That's your own team saying, we can't do this anymore. That's the closest thing to an intervention Washington has. And every road leads to instability. The House vote is imminent. The Senate trial is likely. The streets are restless. Courts are closing in. Markets are nervous. Allies are uneasy. Adversaries are watching. This is no longer just a political fight. It's a constitutional stress test unfolding in real time. And the question is, does the system hold? Or does it fracture under the weight of one man's refusal to step aside? Because that's what this is. One man who cannot accept losing. One man who cannot accept limits. One man who treats the presidency like it's his personal brand deal. Like he's an influencer who got kicked out of a club and now he's outside screaming, "Do you know who I am?" And I want to talk about that 2 a.m. Truth Social post for a second because it really is the perfect symbol of Trump's whole approach. Think about it. 2 in the morning. That's when normal people are asleep. That's when the country is quiet. That's when leaders should be resting so they can make decisions with a clear mind. But Trump is awake, on his phone, rage-posting threats at members of his own party. That is not leadership. That is not strength. That is a guy spiraling. And yet, his supporters see it as strength. They see it as he's fighting. They see it as he's not backing down, which is the most dangerous part of all of this. We've turned stubbornness into a virtue. We've turned refusal to cooperate into toughness. We've turned tantrums into authenticity. Trump could set the Constitution on fire on live television, and half the country would be like, well, at least he's not politically correct. And it's not like Trump doesn't know what he's doing. He does. He understands the power of conflict. He understands that if he keeps everyone fighting, no one can focus on the facts. No one can focus on the process. No one can focus on the damage. It's a distraction strategy. It's a chaos strategy. And it works because the media, and honestly all of us, can't look away. We're addicted to it. It's like watching a car crash, except the car crash is also writing executive orders. And here's where it gets even more insane. Trump is now openly threatening Republicans who might vote against him. Think about that. The president is threatening his own party, not Democrats, his own party. He's calling them traitors. He's promising retaliation. He's framing accountability as war. That is not politics. That is a protection racket. That's nice career you got there. Shame if something happened to it. And Republicans are finally realizing something they should have realized years ago. Trump doesn't care about them. He never did. He cares about Trump. He cares about his image. He cares about winning. He cares about not being embarrassed. And he will burn the party down to avoid looking weak. That's why this is happening. That's why he refuses to step down. Not because he thinks he's innocent, not because he thinks he's right, because stepping down would mean admitting he lost. And Trump would rather drag the country into chaos than admit he lost. And now Congress is exploding on him. And it's not just Democrats, it's Republicans too. Quietly at first, whispering, meeting behind closed doors, counting votes, testing the waters. But the fact that it's happening at all tells you how far this has gone. Because Republicans have spent years bending over backwards to avoid confronting Trump. They've defended him through everything. They've excused everything. They've rationalized everything. They've turned themselves into contortionists. And now even they are like, okay, this might be too much. Which brings us to the real question. What happens when the House votes? Because the House vote is not the end. It's the beginning of the next phase. If impeachment passes, the Senate trial becomes the main event. And that's where the pressure gets brutal. Because senators have to vote out loud, on the record, in history. And they know it. They know that one day their grandkids will ask, "What did you do?" They know that one day there will be documentaries. There will be books. There will be historians. And they will either be the people who stood up or the people who hid. And right now, a lot of them are trying to figure out how to not be the villain in the movie. But here's the thing. There's no safe option. If they vote to convict, they risk Trump's base turning on them. If they vote to acquit, they risk the country turning on them. They're trapped between a cult and a constitution. And they created this trap by enabling him for years. And while all of this is happening, Trump is out there acting like he's the victim, like he's being persecuted, like he's the hero of some epic story. It's always the same with him. He is always the victim. Even when he's the most powerful person in the country, he's the victim. It's like watching a billionaire complain about the price of guacamole. This is unfair. They're coming after me. Yes, Donald, they're coming after you because you did the thing. That's how consequences work. And let's be honest, part of the reason this feels so surreal is because Trump has normalized insanity. We've been living in Trump world for so long that we forget what normal looks like. Normal would be a president respecting the process. Normal would be a president cooperating with Congress. Normal would be a president saying, "I will accept the outcome." Normal would be a president not threatening his own party at 2 a.m. like a drunk guy texting his ex. But Trump has turned the presidency into a daily crisis. And that crisis has consequences. It affects markets. It affects alliances. It affects how the world sees us. It affects how our own citizens feel. People are exhausted. People are angry. People are scared. And that's why protests are growing. That's why pressure is mounting. Because people feel like the system is being tested and they don't know if it's going to hold. And here's where I want to bring in something that's actually kind of relevant, and it's the way information spreads now. Because a big part of Trump's power is media, not traditional media, social media. His ability to dominate attention, his ability to set the narrative, his ability to flood the zone with so much noise that you can't tell what's real anymore. And this is where technology comes in. We live in a time where AI can generate convincing videos, realistic images, fake voices, fake quotes. We're at the point where you can take a politician, make them say something they never said, and half the internet will believe it before anyone can fact-check it. And Trump thrives in that environment. He thrives in confusion. He thrives in chaos. He thrives when truth is optional. And the crazy thing is, AI is not the villain here. AI is just a tool, like a hammer. You can build a house with it, or you can hit someone in the face. It depends on who's holding it. And right now, the people holding the tools of modern communication are often the people least interested in honesty. We've got systems like GPT-4, GPT-5, these large language models that can write essays, scripts, speeches, news summaries. And they can do it fast. They can do it convincingly. They can do it in any style, which is amazing. It's also terrifying because it means propaganda can scale, misinformation can scale, outrage can scale. And Trump's whole strategy is basically outrage at scale. And then you've got tools like DALL-E that can generate images, thumbnails, posters, fake scenes, fake events. And again, it can be used for creativity, for art, for fun, for communication, but it can also be used to manipulate. And in a political crisis like this, where emotions are high and trust is low, the last thing we need is more confusion. That's why this moment is so dangerous, because it's not just a political fight. It's a fight over reality, over whether rules matter, over whether institutions matter, over whether the Constitution is something we all agree to follow or just a suggestion. And Trump is basically testing that. He's pushing it. He's saying, what happens if I just refuse? And the scary part is, we don't have a lot of practice dealing with that. We assume people will follow the rules. We assume leaders will act in good faith. We assume the system will work because everyone agrees the system should work. But what happens when the person at the top doesn't agree? That's what we're watching. A stress test. And the system is creaking. Congress is creaking. Courts are creaking. The streets are creaking. The country is creaking. And Trump is standing there like a guy jumping up and down on a bridge yelling, "See? It's fine." So where does this go? If the House impeaches him, the Senate trial becomes the next battlefield. And Trump will do what he always does. He will attack the process, attack the people, attack the legitimacy, attack the judges, attack the senators, attack the media. He will flood the zone with threats and insults and conspiracy theories. He will try to turn accountability into persecution. He will try to make it about him versus the swamp. Even though he is the swamp, he is the whole swamp. He is the Everglades. And Republicans will have to decide, do they go down with him or do they finally cut him loose? And that decision will not be based on principle. It will be based on survival. It will be based on polling. It will be based on fear. It will be based on whether they think Trump is still an asset or a liability. And right now, for the first time in a long time, he's starting to look like a liability. Not because he changed, but because the consequences are catching up. The protests, the legal deadlines, the evidence, the numbers, the shrinking majority, the donors, the markets, all of it. It's converging. And Trump's response is the same response he always has. Defiance, rage, threats. He refuses to step down. He refuses to cooperate. He refuses to preserve anything. He chooses battle. And that's why Congress is exploding. Because Congress, for all its flaws, still has rules, still has procedures, still has a system. And Trump is a wrecking ball. He's not a negotiator. He's not a builder. He's not a leader. He's a guy who thinks the loudest person wins. And for a while that worked. But now he's up against something louder than him, reality. So we're heading into a week that could define the direction of the country. The House vote is imminent. The Senate trial is looming. The streets are restless. The courts are closing in. The world is watching. And Trump is refusing to step down like a guy who thinks if he just says no enough times, the Constitution will get tired and go away. And here's the thing, the system might hold. It might. It's designed to. It's built for this. It's built for conflict. It's built for accountability. But it requires people to actually use it. It requires lawmakers to have spines. It requires institutions to enforce rules. It requires voters to demand reality. It requires all of us to not normalize insanity. Because if we treat this like just another news cycle, if we treat this like just another Trump tantrum, then we're giving him exactly what he wants: exhaustion, confusion, apathy. And that's how systems break. Not in one big dramatic snap, but in slow, quiet erosion. People stop caring. People stop paying attention. People stop believing rules matter. And then suddenly, nothing matters. So stay engaged. Stay informed. And for the love of God, don't let a 2 a.m. Truth Social post become the thing that rewrites the country. If you want to keep up with this mess as it unfolds, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because at the rate we're going, by tomorrow, Trump will be impeaching Congress back, and Mike Johnson will be hiding under his desk with a calculator and a Bible.